Well, all right, all right, all right. Oh, it's Friday, Friday, Friday. And I gotta get used to this. I am not, I am not used to looking here and looking here at the same time. So this is going to get interesting to say the least, because I'm going to have to, I guess, split my attention. Let's get these keys out of that shot. I don't like these keys. Oh, hold on. Ah, turn the whole lamp. Nice, much better. And I last minute put my shirt on, and it's evident because I got stuff sticking out. All right, I still look good. I think so. We're waiting for a couple of guys to jack in. They were having some problems earlier with the link. Let me see if I can copy the link, paste it here, and then fix it, because I was a letter off. There's a U in there. There's a U after the 9. That's right. It's in there. Hold on a minute. Let me make sure I got this right. It says 7FEV. Huh. That's it. That's the stream. I wonder why they can't find us. Who knows? Who knows? So, it's been a wonderful week. It has been a wonderful, wonderful week. I guess there's been a bit of bad news. The Arts Council had hired us to live stream their summer concert series. The ones at Riverbank Park, the ones at Wilson Park, the Tunes at Noon program. So we sat down here for about a week and decided what type of equipment would be required to do a good job, a really good job with it. So we bought, I don't know if you guys know what this is, a jib. It's a device that sits on top of the tripod that lets you do some kind of smooth up and down panning motions that look really cool on camera. So we got one of those, and we bought a new Blackmagic camera that was going to be our main camera, and then we're going to get a couple little Canons to act as our secondary cameras, our B-rolls. But luckily, before I hit the buy button, Greg Fiedler gave me a call and said they'd all been canceled. Yeah. It was too late to cancel the jib, so it's here. I don't know. I guess we could send it back, but it's kind of fun. I think we're going to find some way to use it. Let me see what I can do here on this thing here. I got 3 comments. I got Jeff saying hi and happy 4th of July. All right, Jeff, how's it going, baby? That's my Jeff follows me on my Oculus. I fly. What's the name of the game, Jeff? Doggone it. Ultra Wings. Yes, on the Oculus, the 3D world. I love it. So, Jeff, you're the only one we got out there, baby. Welcome. Well, you're the only one talking. So I'm going to try to text you and then go back to this game. I did a good job. I think I did. I looked there and I looked there and I did what I was supposed to do. Who knows? I think I'm doing it. So, that said, I think we're getting ready to hunker down around here. I think flu season's coming. First of all, the election is coming. So I need to make sure that I remind each and every one of you to register to vote. In many states, you've been sent out applications for absentee ballots. I surely encourage you to fill those out. Come November time, we are not going to be desiring to be in line forever. It's going to be cold, okay? It's going to be cold. So go ahead and take advantage of the new law that says that you can vote absentee. What is it? Excuseless, reasonless, no reason, something like that. I can't remember what they call it. But if you didn't get a ballot by the mail, I'm sure you can reach out to your city hall, your city clerk, and get one of those and get it. So you got to vote, 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 vote. So I haven't watched any television this week. So I need somebody to tell me what's been going on. What did I miss? What did Trump say? This is, I count on this every Friday for somebody to jack in here and school me on what's going on in the world. So small. So small. I try to stay away from television. It hurts sometimes, especially the broadcast channels. I am just, I'm going to use the word. I am just appalled. I sat here probably about 3 weeks ago. Actually, here's what I did. I was working on setting up something on the monitor, and I accidentally hit the button that told it to scan for channels, right? For channels. And I just chuckled and let it do it because I know it wasn't hooked to anything, so it wasn't going to find anything. And I did something else. And then I came back and boom! Channel 25, clear as day. No antenna, no nothing. And so I watched it. And I want to say the show, what was the show? Was it Broke Girls or Two Broke Girls? Really sassy, really sexy, really innuendo. It should have been like after 10 o'clock kind of show, but what am I to say? But what appalled me were the commercials. And they were relentless. It seemed like the commercials were on every 8 minutes. Every 8 minutes, somebody was telling me to sue somebody. Have you been touched by a Boy Scout or in the Boy Scouts, by a Boy Scouts, around the Boy Scouts? Call us and we'll get you the money you deserve. Some kind of mesh surgery that went bad. Just all sorts of lawyers trying to get people to sign up for lawsuits so they can have the numbers to do class action. Horrible. But then after the lawyer commercials were nothing but drug commercials. Viagra, Abilify, the fact that I can remember those two is enough. But it was horrible. It was lawyer, drug, Clorox. I don't know if it's Clorox or not. But what it made me think was I was just thinking about people that don't have cable. That their source of entertainment, especially during the pandemic and especially during lockdown, can you imagine how many times they have seen those ads? You don't have to be subliminal about it anymore, I guess. You don't have to hide it in the background. You just repeat. And eventually, if you repeat the lie long enough and loud enough, people will believe it. All right. I hope you guys can even hear me. Yeah, you should be able to hear me. I was unmuted. Jeff, can you hear me? Say something. Jeff, you're out there. My friend Tim sent me a text earlier and showed me this wonderful picture of the studio that he created, since he's a star now and a regular on Eclectic Ramblings. He has decided to get himself. Can I send the picture? Let me see. Maybe I can. I'm trying to learn my technology here. Always interested in doing cool things. All right, so he sent me a picture to my cell phone, right? I should be able to click on it and go to more, share it. Oh, no, that's just going to do a message. All right, and start again. Wait a minute. It still just wants to do a message. Cancel. All right, so we don't want to do that. We want to do something else. Holding it. Save. Nope, that wasn't it. Copy. Nope, 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 nope. More. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It should be over here too. Hold on a second. I am smarter than the average bear because I've got the software in both places. I should be able to open it. Uh-oh. I should be able to open it over here. Where'd you go, Timmy? There you go. All right. He's here. And no picture. How could that happen? So has it not sunk? But he sent me that earlier. Interesting. Huh? I hate it when that happens. Okay, so I can't get to him. I cannot get to him, or the picture, or the picture. But I do have another story to tell you. Wait a minute. What do I have up on the screen? Let me see. I gotta get back to the window. Okay, I've got this up. So what was I want? Oh, I want to show you guys something. There we go. I don't know if you guys are hip to this. Uh-oh. I don't need a 6 in it. Come on now. Boom, boom. What? Boom. And then get rid of all that. Ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay, it's still going. I think it's liquid bit. Hold on a second. What's the name of the place? Here. Oh, you guys can't see this, can you? I found this place. It is in Flint, Michigan. And actually, I knew about it before because a friend of mine, Jerry from the Good Bean, he worked there for a while, probably about 4 years ago. But we've got our own little eBay right here in Flint, Michigan. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. I'm going to Google it. I thought I had it. Maybe it's an org or something. Uh-oh. I hate it when that happens. Liquid Bud. How do you like that? Liquid Bud. Liquid Bid. Come on, son. Liquid Bid. Liquid Bidding Flint. It's got to be a place. Nice. Yes! This is the place. This is the place. They have, well, apparently what they do is they buy discontinued and returned items from big box stores, and sell them in auction. Hold on, that's Timmy trying to get in. He says I need to send it to him somewhere in another program. Let's do this. Wait a minute. There he is. He made it. I just heard the boom, the boom. All right. So I got that going. Hold on a minute. Let's welcome Timmy in. What's up, Dr. Tim?
What's going on, brother?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you over all the fireworks in my neighborhood.
Are they going crazy?
They just started, and I figured it. I figured as soon as the show started, it would start going crazy.
Pat, 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 pat. Nice, nice. Well, listen, I just telling my. It looks like you got no clothes on. What are you doing, old man? You can't be naked on the internet.
I'm not naked. I'm not naked.
You're looking naked to me. I just put this shirt on so I would be decent and in order. Don't you know we got church ladies watching? What are you talking about?
I got drawers on.
I think that's more information than I needed. I'm glad it tilted up. I'm glad it tilted up and not down.
Trying to get my new broadcast studio to hold still.
I heard. I was trying to show people pictures of it, but I can't. For some reason, I can't it didn't come through on the computer's messenger. It just came through on the phone's messenger.
Oh man, I
Which
guess I
doesn't make
gotta.
sense because my response to you came through on both.
I didn't post it up to my Facebook page yet, so I guess you can't pull it down from there.
No, but give me a minute. I'll figure it out. Now I got somebody to talk to. I can be distracted a little more without pissing people off.
All right. So, Alan wanted me to tell you all hi tonight. Unfortunately, he went on duty at 7 o'clock this morning and won't come off duty till 7 o'clock Sunday morning.
Wow. I thought it was 24 on, 48 off.
It's supposed to be 24 on and 3 days off, but they got such a shortage right now of firefighters in the city that they told them all don't request any new leave because it's going to be denied, and we're going to be asking people to do multiple shifts. So they came to him and asked him, and he's not even he's a lieutenant. So his normal job is to drive around in an SUV, go into calls and checking up on the frontline guys and making sure they're doing things right and helping them out when they need help. This weekend, he is a frontline guy.
Wow. When was the last time he did that?
Yeah, he's done it off and on since he got promoted to lieutenant, but it's not a normal. But this is going to be a 48-hour shift of being a frontline guy.
Wow. Wow. Well, listen, I was just telling the people that are watching that I found this place, man, in Flint. It's called Liquid Bidding. They're all over the country, so there may be one in Florida down there, Timmy. And
The name of it is what?
liquidbidding.com.
Liquidbidding.com. And that's where I go to bid on alcohol?
Not alcohol. Well, they might have alcohol. I don't know. I got to the bottom and they had frozen chicken and frozen hamburgers and stuff, but I don't know. You know, if they list the expiration dates, you know it's a problem, right?
Here the thing is, lately I've been getting these pop-up advertisements on my Facebook page on a Thursday or a Friday telling me that Saturday, starting at 2 p.m. and going till 9 p.m. at this location, that day only, at that location only, buy 30 steaks for $30, buy this for, this. And I'm like, yeah, that's somebody's trunk of their car. Am I buying?
I'm not against trunk steaks. What's wrong with you, man?
I ain't buying meat out of somebody's car.
Why not? I mean, they stole it from the same grocery store you were going to buy it from.
Yeah, but I don't know how long it's been in their car.
Dates are on the meat. Unless it's scribbled out, you're good, man. Don't buy no scribbled out dated meat out of the trunk.
Yeah, the funny part is when I first met this new pastor at my church down in Cuba, he never dealt in the black market. Matter of fact, he hated even saying the word the black market. So I taught him how to use the phrase, it fell out of the back of a truck.
He wasn't hip for that, huh?
And coming from the city he came from, he really never had to deal with it because you're in the city he's in, supplies are very plentiful. But now he's out in this village and way out in the middle of nowhere and a mile deep in a sugarcane field. And it's 15 kilometers one way to the grocery store. He had to learn the phrase, so we made it easy with it fell out of the back of a truck.
I can't believe that he never heard that. As many trucks as there are in Cuba. I mean, people actually fall out of the back of trucks in Cuba. Come on, man.
The funny part was, it was either that trip or the very next trip. We were talking about maybe doing some painting, and paint is very hard to come by in Cuba. So we were talking about maybe doing some painting on the church, and everybody went to bed and woke up the next morning, and miraculously 3-liter buckets of paint showed up from the time we went to bed until the time we woke up for breakfast. And I looked at him, and he's sitting there smiling. And I said to, through the interpreter, I said, "Did these fall out of the back of a truck on its way from Camagüey to Havana?" And he looked at me and said, "Maybe."
Nice, nice. Yeah, that man just lost some heaven points. You see, you're gonna end up sending the pastor of the church.
I'll tell you, the pastors in a lot of these villages learned very quickly the Cuban government doesn't supply well. So you have to make your arrangements to get what falls off the back of a truck.
Well, I mean, he grew up in Cuba. He knows that. He knows that.
Not in the city he lives in or grew up in.
Oh, okay. You're saying that he moved to it, right? He moved to the to the villages.
Yeah. So if you're
living in Detroit, right?
Yeah, if you're living in certain cities, food is plentiful, supplies are plentiful, you can get what you need. But then when you end up out in these, they call them finca, Finka, and they're little villages. Some of them don't have a concrete floor. The houses are all dirt floor in the middle of these sugarcane and other garden fields. Your nearest shopping center is 15 to 30 kilometers away. And a lot of times, by the time you get there, there's nothing.
How do you, I mean, so everybody's a farmer? Everybody's making their own
that's what we've been trying to encourage, is everybody to become a farmer instead of looking for what the government can supply them and waiting in line for it. So
I've got a business idea, Timmy. Hydroponic gardens, self-contained hydroponic farms.
Trust me, we've been working with them to get them, and now the main problem starts that the communist government says unless that is your identified job, you shouldn't be doing it because you're taking work away from somebody whose job that is. So if you're not a farmer and you're caught growing vegetables, the government may send you to jail.
Oh, wow. And so I take it you can't have any hobbies either.
Yeah. So one day, it was my first trip down there. I see this kid scooting through down the dirt road.
Move your camera a little bit so that you're on the other side. Can you turn your camera a little bit so that you're in the center of the frame? You're bothering me. A little more. All
right. Like that?
There you go. Better. I mean, you're still ugly, but that's better.
Yeah, well, ain't nothing gonna fix that.
I agree.
So I was, for my first trip down there, I see this kid running down the dirt road through the village with this big catfish, and I was trying to slow him down because I wanted to see this catfish, and he wouldn't slow down. And finally, one of the young kids explained to me through the interpreter that the young man had been fishing. And he's not a fisherman, so he wasn't supposed to be fishing. So he had to get that fish home before anybody saw him and reported him to the government.
Wow. I take it the government controls bags too, right? He couldn't hide that fish in his bag or down his pants or something.
No. We're talking about a situation, the guy next door that lives next door to the parsonage for my church is a dairy farmer.
Okay.
He has the cows he has because the government permits him to have those cows. But every morning when he goes out and he milks those cows, he has to go to the government ration store and turn 50% of that milk in.
Okay.
Then he can take the other 50% of the milk home for his family, which means that he can make deals as long as nobody reports him.
With the other half, so yeah.
With the other half of the milk.
It's a different life, isn't it?
It's a completely different life. And you think about it, right? The milk is given to you by the government as a ration until the youngest child in your house turns 7. Then milk is no longer a ration. You have to figure out how to pay for it. Figure your food budget at your income is $15 a month. chicken and pork are running about $1 a month. A 1 liter bottle of soda runs about $2. What are you buying with your $15 a month?
And that's just the father, right? The mother's not making that.
Now, that's
It's just the head of the household, right?
the way the way the Constitution is written in Cuba. Once you turn the age of 17, you're guaranteed a paycheck from the government. So technically, yeah, mother and father could be getting $34, $35 a month combined. Plus, they each get their rations.
Wow.
But I've actually seen situations after quote divorce where the ex-husband and ex-wife, rather than go through all the headache with the government, they find a common person to hold on to their ration card. Then on the first of the month, the husband comes and gets the ration card and goes to the ration store and gets his rations, then brings the card back to the common person. Then the wife goes over and gets it and goes to the ration store and gets her rations.
Wow.
I have a friend who travels once a month, 2.5 hours into Havana to get her rations because it's easier than dealing with the government to get her rations moved to where she's living now.
Wow. Wow. So wait a minute. How far away are you saying is she drives?
Not drive. She can't have a car. In Cuba, you can't own a car unless either A, you convince the government you have a need to own a car, or B, you have access to money from outside of Cuba to buy a car. Black market.
Well, how come I keep seeing all these sweet old cars? I mean, I know that
Yeah,
they just kept the old cars and kept
the
fixing them
story
up.
behind this. They call those Antiguas,
Okay.
and Antigua, in the worst shape possible, just barely running, is going to cost you about 17,000 US dollars
In Cuba.
in Cuba. Okay, so most of those Antiguas are owned by people who either somebody passed it on to them, or they have access to money from outside of Cuba to help them buy it.
In other
So
words,
what
politicians.
what they do with that? No, it's like your family's living in the United States or another country
Okay.
that has money, and that family is sending you back money. So
Right.
what they do now is they buy one of those Antiguas, and the majority of them are six-seaters, right? The big old Fords, Cadillacs, Pontiacs, all that, they're six-seaters.
Right.
Well, you see that car moving from one city to another, there's the driver and 5 butts in the car, and every one of those butts is paying a fee to the driver to be moved to the next city.
So it's like a taxi.
Right. Exactly. That's what
Well,
an
you know,
Antigua.
I
And
heard that it was illegal to not pick up hitchhikers in Cuba. Is that true?
that's bullshit.
What?
If you get caught, and I've actually had this happen, if you get caught picking up a hitchhiker, the first thing the cop is going to do is start questioning you about whether or not you charge that hitchhiker any money, because only certain license plates are authorized to charge a fee.
Right.
So they ignore the Antiguas, and what they do is they get their money from the Antiguas in a different way. But like we're riding in a church van, 15-passenger Toyota church van, and we're going from our village to Havana, and on the way is this city called Hawaii Grande.
Uh,
Gentleman needed a ride from the village to Hawaii Grande, so he gets in the vehicle with us, and on the outskirts of Hawaii Grande on the major east-west highway, we drop him off. Go to pull out, immediately get pulled over. The driver is getting questioned about whether or not he charged a fee to the guy he just dropped off.
but see, it's a catch 22 because if he did, if he did charge a fee, he's guilty of doing that, and if he didn't charge a fee, he's guilty of taking the money from the taxi that would have charged him the fee, right?
Right. And that's part of the reason they do that. And this is what they do to the people that own the Antiguas.
Uh-huh.
They can't stop them. They haven't figured out a way to stop them. So what they figured out is that it's actually a cash cow. So every now and then they'll pull this trick, like probably 95% of those Antiguas no longer have the original Chrysler, Mopar, GM, whatever motor and transmission it came with. It's now got a Nissan 4-cylinder diesel and a 4-speed standard transmission in it.
Oh, wow.
So what the government will do and say is, okay, we just decided that you don't have the original equipment engine in that car. So unless you pay a fine, we're going to confiscate the car. And they get a fine of about $200, and that's good for about a year. And they find another reason next year.
Instead of just saying, pay us $200 a year to be a licensed, whatever you call them, right?
Yeah. Instead, well, the thing is, you cannot be a licensed. Well, I'll take that back. In certain cities, they do issue licenses for Antiguas, but you got to meet certain criteria. Have you ever seen a show called Cuban Gold or Cuban Chrome?
No.
No. I think it was the Discovery Channel had it on for about 6 months, and it surprised the hell out of me that the Cuban government allowed it to be filmed, because it is so dead-on accurate about the Antigua tourist cab industry in Havana. So if you can ever go, I think you can watch it on demand on Discovery. It's called Cuban Chrome.
Well, the last thing I watched on Cuba was a couple of scientific expeditions. And
Yeah.
it had to be 2 years ago. They were in the woods working on plants to try to solve some issues. And I was kind of embarrassed that I was surprised that there were scholars in Cuba. It's like, duh, it's a society. They got colleges and universities.
Well,
why would you think there aren't scholars and scientists?
At one point in the 60s, everybody in Cuba had a bachelor's degree. Because first thing Castro did when he took over was he said, every Cuban's going to college.
Right.
Well, they quickly realized what a mistake that was. And they ended up with a lot of highly educated farmers, because they get these bachelor's degrees, come out of university, and there was no jobs for them. So they had to go back to being farmers. So now,
why would they just create jobs for them? I mean, if you go to
because
school,
it's not there, brother. It's not there.
Don't they have power plants and infrastructure?
There are 2 power plants that provide the power to the entire island that were built by the Soviet Union in the early 60s. The Soviet Union, or Russia, doesn't even make parts for these plants anymore. So if something breaks, the plant is down until a Cuban can custom manufacture the part. I've been there for that one too. The rolling blackouts. Out in my village, we went 5 days without electricity.
So here's my question to you, Timmy. Why Cuba? Why not Mississippi? Why are you doing missionary work in Cuba instead of Alabama or Southside Chicago? I don't.
So my church doing a lot of missionary work, mostly the youth group, all through the United States and everything. One day the pastor said, yeah, we formed a relationship with a church in Cuba. The entire United Methodist Conference in Florida has a partnership with the Methodist Church down in Cuba.
Okay.
And so they asked churches here in Florida to partner with a church in Cuba and try to help that church and that village become self-sustaining. So, okay, I'm thinking nothing of it. Then one day the pastor stands up in front of the pulpit and says, we're getting ready to send a mission trip down to Cuba. And though we have the money and that we need, what we need is some able-bodied men who have done construction work, because the roof of the church was ripped off in a hurricane, and there's a couple of other construction projects they need done in the village.
And you raised your hand.
No, not initially. That was Sunday.
Uh-huh.
Sunday, I went home from church. I had breakfast. I mowed my lawn. I'm out here doing something else in my lawn. And I go to grab a beer in the refrigerator, and I walk in the door, and my kids are watching the Veggie Tales version of Jonah in the belly of the whale.
Okay.
And I walk in the door, and it's right at the point where I hear, Tim, what are you doing? I told you to go to Cuba. Huh? So I went to Cuba on that trip, and I'll tell you something, brother. Anybody ever tells me the Holy Spirit doesn't exist, I tell them, come take a trip to Cuba with me. When I'm done with you in Cuba, you will believe the Holy Spirit exists.
And why is that, sir?
Because I've seen it in action. I've seen people pray. Like a young Cuban said to me one day, he says, you know, being a Christian in the United States is simple and easy. Things come to you guys so simple and easy, you question whether or not it was delivered by God. Here in Cuba, we pray, and sometimes they don't get delivered. So we know when we get something delivered to us, it definitely came from God. He says, when you Americans want to travel, you go out your driveway with your set of keys in your hand, you climb in your car, you start it up, you go. When a Cuban is planning to take a trip, he starts out with praying that when he gets to the transport center in his local city, there's going to be a vehicle heading in his direction or close enough to make it worthwhile. Okay? All right, stories. Well, I'm cruising across the precinct of Matanzas, and I'm riding in a 72 Lada. You know what a Lada is?
Yeah, isn't it that like Hungarian car that looks like
A Lada is a Russian. It's a Russian vehicle.
Yeah.
So I'm riding in a 72 Lada front wheel drive diesel car. And the diesel fumes are coming up through the floorboard. The car's rattling all over the place. And all of a sudden, we hit a bump, and the thing starts making a hell of a racket. The driver throws it in neutral, coasts over into the grass. We get out. We have to search for all the parts because the front transaxle in the car just blew apart. We find all the parts. He rebuilds the transaxle on the side of the road, and off we go.
Yeah.
All day long, we're praying and riding in this vehicle that this vehicle's going to get us. Well, it gets us through the day, but now we're on our way back to the city of Matanzas. And almost in the exact same spot as on the way out, we hit a bump and hear the noise, but this time we can't find the parts. We spend an hour and a half, and this is called the Cuban experience. We spend an hour and a half on the side of the road trying to search the parts. We're about probably 30 kilometers outside of the city of Matanzas. So we're really not in a good spot here, right?
Right.
What do you think happens?
You got in a circle. You prayed.
We started praying, and all of a sudden comes up this 42 Woody wagon.
Uh-huh.
You know what a Woody wagon is?
Yeah. With the wood.
Kind of looks like a Jeep.
Yeah.
Okay, so this 42 Woody wagon comes rolling along, and the driver starts waving, and he's getting excited. Well, it turns out he knows this guy. And the guy's Woody is completely empty. And not only can it take all the passengers from the ladder, it can tow the ladder. So
Nice.
we come to a price for him to tow the ladder and get us back to where we need to go. As we're rolling along, well, actually, it was afterwards. We're sitting down with a cup of coffee and a piece of flan at the district superintendent's house, and the driver says to me, do you know how lucky we were today, how the Holy Spirit took care of us? And I looked at him, I said, no. He says, that guy never leaves a city empty to head back to the city of Matanzas.
Right.
There is no way he should have been able to take us in the vehicle.
Right. So what happened to his load? What did he explain why he was empty?
No, he didn't find anybody looking to head to Matanzas, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and he just wanted to get home, so he decided to head home empty.
Nice. Nice. So here's my question: the prayer, I guess, when they pray, good things happen, and when they pray and good things don't happen, do they take that as God being mad at them?
No, they fully understand the fact that God does not always answer your prayer in the way you think he should. So
So
he
let me
may
ask:
not be
who
answering you.
introduced religion?
You might be praying for a piece of pork on your plate right now,
Uh,
and that may not appear. However, something else is going to come your way.
so let me ask this: who introduced religion to the Cubans?
The Cubans knew religion before Castro, and it went underground during, for the years until I think it was 94, after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Russia was in a really, really, really bad way, and the Pope came to Russia and talked to Castro and offered the Catholic Church to help the Catholics in Russia. Well, when Castro accepted that, then the other denominations said, hey, whoa, hey, hello.
Wow.
The
But
thing
wait a
that's
minute. Well, wait a minute. But there still had to be an indigenous religion in Cuba before.
Santeria. You know what
What's that?
Santeria is?
No clue.
Santeria is a form of voodoo.
Okay.
What happened down in the Caribbean during the slave days, when they used to take the slaves down to the Caribbean to break them before bringing them in the United States,
Right.
the slaves would get caught practicing voodoo, and the masters would beat the hell out of them. So they figured out if they just took Christian deities or Christian, not gods, saints, and Christian terminology and assigned it to voodoo deities, then the masses would think they were practicing Christianity when they were really practicing voodoo.
Okay. So what turned them to Christianity from their practice of voodoo then?
Of course, there's always been, voodoo was the slave religion where the masters were Christians. Slowly, some Cubans started moving away from Santeria and moving towards Christianity. I've actually been in a village that had a major Santeria worship temple at the entrance to the village.
Well, I could see where that would be easy. If they're assigning Catholic names and deities to voodoo gods and rituals, I could see where the original meaning could easily get lost with time.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't. Trust me, it hasn't. The time I took my oldest son Thomas down there, we ended up staying with a family that lived right on the outskirts of the village, and the next village over was a Santeria village. And the night we arrived, they were having a festival. Like I said, I've been in another village that was slowly converting from Santeria. Well, it was from Santeria to Christianity, and the woman that was the leader in that village kept telling me her prayer and her intention was to take over the Santeria temple and convert it to a church.
Okay, so you're saying the voodoo priestess got turned on to Christianity and was gonna.
No, she wasn't the voodoo priestess. She was a villager who was converted to Christianity and became the worship leader for Christianity in the village. And she was fighting with the Santeria leader and the people that practice Santeria in the village to try to convert them so she could take over that temple.
Well, that sounds like a mission. One of those David and Goliath type challenges.
The first group that went down there, I didn't go down on that one there. One of the guys I hang out with did, and he took a bunch of baseball bats and baseball gloves and baseballs because he heard that they like playing baseball. Well, as it turns out, he gets down there, and the church organizes a baseball game against the Santeria temple in the next village. He says, he didn't know that the guys he was playing against all practice Santeria.
Well, is there a conflict like that? I mean, do they not socialize?
Yeah, no, they normally don't. And I go back to what I was told. One gentleman that attends the church in the village converted from Santeria to Christianity. And he told me that what converted him was his wife. His wife was the first one to convert. And when she was leaving the house to go to night services at the church, well, the village isn't safe in the dark.
Right.
So he would walk her to the church and then hang out at the church until the service was over and then walk her home. And he said slowly, the words kept drawing him closer and closer and closer. Well, the whole time he's doing this, he's carrying a machete on his side. Finally, he said one day after walking her home and talking to her on the walk home, he put the machete on the dining room table, and that was the end of it.
So is the machete a symbol of their religion, or was he no longer afraid?
Machete is a way you defend yourself and your keep.
Right, so he still had a keep to defend after he found religion, didn't he?
But he found a different way to defend it.
Interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, he said he carried that machete, and there was no doubt in the village that he would use that machete if he needed to.
But now he doesn't carry the machete, so doesn't that make him vulnerable?
Yeah, sure, it makes him vulnerable, but
was he the bully? You know what I mean?
Well, he was the bully, but now he's vulnerable because he doesn't carry the machete, but he trusts in the Lord.
Okay, nice. Let me show you this. I need to show you this. I need to show everybody this because I had a wonderful, wonderful experience.
What's that? I can't see that on my phone.
We're in the process of fixing up the house of the street 508.
Okay.
And it needed flooring. So I did a budget for the flooring, and Timmy, it was going to be $2,500 to buy the flooring that the house needed. And I was just aghast, you know what I mean? So for some reason, I was going through a folder on an old computer, and this invoice came up from Liquid Bids. And I remember I had bought something from them, maybe 5 years ago, and what it was all about. So I went to their site, and sure enough, they had hardwood flooring on auction for $5 for 360 square feet, Tim. So I copied the name of the floor and I pasted it in Google. Came up at Home Depot. To make a long story short, I spent $550, and guess how much hardwood flooring I got?
Probably about 2,500 square feet.
I got $3,000 worth of
Okay.
flooring. Each box was worth $113.
I put down just under 3,000 square feet of hardwood floor when I first bought this house. But that was back in 2000. And I'm thinking I paid about $2,500 for that hardwood.
Nice. Dude, I walked away from less than 600, but I mean, I bought some other stuff too. I'm not gonna. I bought a pallet. You know, it started out at $5, but it ended up being almost 500 for the wood, which was still a bargain. But they have these salvage pallets, and all they show you is a pallet wrapped in saran wrap, and if you're lucky, you can make the name out on a box that's behind the saran wrap, and they put them up for auction for $5. So I bought one of these. I bid on one of these, and I won it. It ended up going up to $75, right? And I won it, and I brought it home. Guess what was in it, Timmy? It was like Christmas in July. I'm opening this thing up. There's a bathtub, a full-size bathtub in this pallet. You take the bathtub out. There's two ceiling fans in the bathtub, right? Under the ceiling fans is a Bosch hand sander, power sander, brand new, still with the sandpaper in the bag. That was all in the tub, okay? The tub sat on top of a box that said sofa, and it said 5-piece sofa set. We ended up with a 5-piece sofa set of outdoor furniture with a coffee table, end tables, and an L unit. So now under that box were two more boxes, and one was like a 6-foot countertop, two pieces, 6-foot countertop, and then another 4-foot piece of marble that was like 4 inches thick. So I'm just giddy. I just thought that was so much fun. I want to do it again, but I have no reason to do it again.
You got lucky, brother. Next time you might pay.
I might pay. I mean, I got enough flooring not only to do that house, but to do the studio as well.
See, now that's what's killing me because I'm fixing to have a company come in and rip up the hardwood because underneath the hardwood I put down and all throughout the rest of the house is what's called terrazzo. Have you ever heard of terrazzo?
Yes. You covered terrazzo floors with wood?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So now I'm looking at it, having a company come in and take up the wood floor and take up the carpets that are covering the other terrazzo and just go back and patch and polish and restore the terrazzo to its original beauty.
So I've got several questions to ask you. You actually put carpet over terrazzo?
No, I bought the house with carpeting over the terrazzo.
So you never saw the terrazzo, or you didn't know it was down there when you put the wood down?
When I put the wood down, I pulled the carpeting up, and because it had been under that pad and the tack strips and everything, the terrazzo just looked bad. And dude, I was, I had 3 kids under 6 years old at the time, and I was the only income. I couldn't afford to have the terrazzo fixed, so I did the next best thing.
Right.
I covered it.
I ain't mad at you. Well, listen, Timmy, say goodbye. We've run out of time.
We're out of time? No way.
Yeah.
I want to go.
I know you didn't want to put clothes on either. You know we're going to get complaints.
I'm going to tell you, I'm having a little protest at my house here tomorrow because they limit the crowd size if you're having a party. So I'm having a protest. It's crowd size. It's not limited. Bring your mask. Bring your hydration if you're coming.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, we'll be working on bail for your butt. We'll see you next week, baby. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. It's Eclectic Ramblings. Hey, if you want to do what we do, you can too. WFOV 92.1 LPFM Flint, Our Voices Radio. Determined to make a difference, but we need you to too. So if you got a group, organization, or a project that you're working on, you need to let the community know, holler at us, 810-239-2901. And if you want to do the streaming thing, Spectacle Productions, Spectacle TV, we can get you live, 810-239-2901. And as always, I'm stalling. I'm trying to find the close. As always, remember, enjoy the life you're living, just until you can live the life you'll enjoy. Peace.